And also with that messaging, I do know that, you are more interested and not more interested, but along the lines of creating this skincare line, you're still interested in giving back to your community and that you're really involved in some programs to help, I think, how do I want to say, make things better in the world? So, specifically, the missing and murdered Indigenous women program movement. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What is that about, and how are you contributing to that?
So the missing and murdered Indigenous women, it's MMIW, but now we're kind of pushing it to MMIP people because it's not just women. So when you're on some of these big reserves that have thousands and thousands of acres, keep in mind that what we refer to as Indian country is a sovereign nation. And a lot of people think, what exactly does that mean? Well, what it means is that, take for instance my tribe. We're on a reservation. We're 20 minutes from the main city, which would be Escondido. So we border these cities, but we have our own perimeter within the reservation. That is technically not considered part of the United States. That's actually considered a sovereign nation. So it's a country within a country, if you will. So, with that said, we have our own tribal government, we have our own laws. Obviously, we can't do anything too crazy, so they do, correspond with the laws of the land. But we do not have sometimes the resources to have our own police department or even our own fire department. The economic development or the resources that have to be created for a government have to come from the tribe. There's no outside source, and this is something a lot of people don't understand is they see these big casinos come up and they're like, "Oh, okay, well these are rich Indians." Well, not necessarily, maybe, but that economic resource is utilized primarily to fuel government, to pave streets, to do all of the things that, a regular city does to raise taxes. So some of these tribes, if they don't have any source of economic development, in other words, they don't have a casino or they don't have oil or agriculture or anything really to support them, if a woman or a person goes missing, there's no resources to go find them. So it could be months upon months before you have the federal government bring out the rangers or whoever might be to come in, actually try to find that person. And what happens is a lot of predators know this. So it's easy game for them to go and kidnap or, take hold of a native person because they know that there's no resources to go look for them. It's very different than in the city. I mean, we've got Amber Alert. There's no Amber Alert in Indian country. So there's a really great need for private investigators, for education, also to just teach our young people how to be safe. I mean, the needs are above and beyond. Also, the statistics are way, way higher. I don't want to misquote them, but what I will say is that Indigenous people, especially on reservations, go missing at a much higher rate than anyone else in the United States. So we are very much behind that cause. And we also want to spread awareness because, if you have somebody in the city, let's just say San Diego, that goes missing, everybody is out looking for that person. In Indian country, you may not even hear about it. So there's a real need for that.
Yeah, actually, I was aware of a lot of that again from my time spent in Montana that, there was that real issue that people would go missing and then there was just simply no one available to go for on these manhunts, to figure out what happened. And that was one of the questions I had is like, well, why is that? Why doesn't the government step in? And there's just so many different legalities and situations that happen there that when I did read that within your literature, I was like really happy to hear that. I was like, that's so important, and it's not something that's ever reported. You certainly don't hear about it on the local news if somebody goes missing on a reservation, and it is a big problem, as far as making sure the resources are there, because everybody is important. And I think, you laid that out beautifully when you were talking about being this circular tribe. It's like everybody is equally important. And somebody missing on a reservation is just as important as somebody missing just in the city of Oceanside, and we need to give proper amount of press and attention to that as well. So, with programs like that, I'm hoping that we will start to see a little bit of balancing out of resources, as best we can.